And newly minted NewsNation contributor Kurt Bardella, there's Kurt, is here. His first NewsNation contributor appearance. Welcome to the program, my friend. Thank you. We begin with Alex Thompson of Axios for a deeper dive on his reporting. We looked back because you noted what happened last year and how people liked his State of the Union. And I thought even 2 years ago, at the start of the Ukraine war, a strong performance. His poll numbers were exactly the same on February 5th, 2 days before the address, and March 5th, 1 month after. 52 disapprove, 41% approve. What exactly are they hoping that a strong performance does that last year's strong performance did not?
I don't think they're looking for it to change maybe the overall approval rating number. What they're trying to do is to look at what you've just been talking about, which is the age issue. The best way you can confront the age issue is showing that you have an energetic public performance. Now, President Biden could have done that with a Super Bowl interview just this last week that he turned down. This will allow him to have another high-profile moment in the public that he can control.
Look, you and Mike Allen are two of the best reporters in town, so I take nothing away from you. But he's got to do the State of the Union. Okay, he doesn't have to do the Super Bowl. How much of this is just the White House trying to spin something that they have to do, not something that they could or could not have done in the Super Bowl?
I think the better skepticism is that, yeah, you can have a good State of the Union performance, but it's not necessarily enough. You need a good State of the Union performance, and you need a good Super Bowl interview, and you need more interviews. It can't just be a one-off. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make the best of a bad situation. The thing is there a plan to fix the age issue? There hasn't been a huge dynamic plan, but they're aware of it. They just haven't been successful, in part because it's the one thing you cannot change.
Yeah, you can't change it. Kurt, and look, to Alex's point, you have the State of the Union, and then you have the road show. You go out to highlight all of your accomplishments that have happened and all of the things you want to do. You're showing up at union halls, and then you're showing up at rivers that you built bridges over and on and on. What do you make of the sudden realization now, or the sudden willingness by a lot of Democrats to now speak about this publicly?
Well, they're waking up to something that we have been talking about, specifically on this show, for months now. The problem with the State of the Union strategy is, and listen, I expect President Biden to deliver a fine State of the Union address. This is a setting that he's familiar in, that he's comfortable with. He has done this before. He knows.
He was in the
stakes.
Senate for 40 years.
He will perform well there. The problem is, much like in sports, you're only as good as your last performance. The next time that he's out on the campaign trail and stumbles or misspeaks or says something that may not be entirely accurate or just has a senior moment, it all starts all over again. Like, this is the most predictable cycle that we're living in, and it's never going away, because the one thing that we know for sure is Joe Biden's not going to get any younger between now and Election Day.
All right. Look, there's the discussion of the actuarial event, right? And the Washington Post did a long piece, both for Biden and Trump. What happens if between now and the convention, for some reason, they cannot accept? And what happens between the convention and the election if they cannot run for election? What happens after the election if they cannot serve, to borrow a statement from Lyndon Johnson, which seems apt in this case. But there's some comparisons, Alex, that are starting to be made between Joe Biden, even in 2019 and in 2024. We put together two clips from basically his campaign launch. Take a look.
We choose hope over fear, truth over lies, and yes, unity over division. I've never been more optimistic about our future, and I've been doing this a hell of a long time. Just to remember who we are.
How much does the White House worry about these comparison clips that are starting to play more?
Oh, I mean, they're absolutely worried. They know that his age is the biggest threat to this campaign and also the biggest chance that Donald Trump is going to return to the Oval Office. They are well aware of the risk. And, you can see it just there. The guy is not even close to the public performer he was 4 years ago. And in that campaign, you remember, people were also making his age an issue. Cory Booker back then was saying, sometimes you just wonder when you hear him talk. The thing is that there are two things going on. There are limits of what they can do, and there's also limits of what they can convince him to do. I've been told that behind the closed doors, Joe Biden does not think that what we just said is true. Joe Biden behind closed doors will often say to aides, I feel so much younger than my age. And sometimes I'm telling you, that's what he says, like almost verbatim. He says it often, frequently.
They probably, it's one thing to feel like you're getting older. Delusion probably is not something that we want the President of the United States to feel, for any of us to feel. Obviously, this brings up for Democrats Kurt, the question of who's next. Kamala Harris was talking about that on CNN. Take a listen.
She is meeting with people who say that they feel like they are not being heard by the White House and the Biden campaign. One person who attended one of the meetings said to me, the bedwetting complaints are running thin with people.
I actually don't even understand what that means.
Yeah. Okay, let's be really clear about something. I'm going to say something as a Democrat strategist that I'm probably not supposed to say. If anyone thought that Kamala Harris could defeat Donald Trump, Joe Biden would not be running again. Kamala Harris would be. That's number one. Number two, Democrats would tell you this is the most important election in history. The stakes are high. Democracy is at stake. That's what we hear. Donald Trump is the greatest threat to democracy that ever lived. If that is the case, if the one defense that you're putting up is a guy who's this old, who has lost a step, who doesn't actually admit the most obvious thing that all of us are eyes, like, we are creating, as Democrats, the most predictable crisis you can imagine that is completely avoidable. The one thing they can do, when we say, well, what can they do? They can accept reality and run somebody else.
Well, I don't think that acceptance is coming anytime soon, right?
Well,
yeah.
But what he's right that more and more people are saying it. The truth is that the Democratic consultant class, Democratic experts, don't believe they have a Democratic Party brand problem. You look at all the special elections over the last 2 years, they think they have a Joe Biden brand problem. They do think there is a non-MAGA majority in this country.
Oh, they may be right about that. Good to see you. Thank you very much.